everyone, it's Hammer Time, the only place for Maulers in the entire universe. Episode number 50. We got a big one here. I am, of course, joined by Alex, my co-host.
Good to see you, buddy. Glad to be here.
And we have Steve Meyer, the defensive back coach. What's going on, Coach?
Not too much. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
Good. How's your off season going so far?
Not too bad. Just living up back in Pittsburgh here again and enjoying time with the family and coaching a little high school football on the side just to keep busy, in the downtime here.
Love it.
We had Horton on USFL this week. Are you over the championship yet, or are you just ready to get back? And
you're never really over it completely, but you try to take the good and the bad from it, and yeah, it's time to get rolling. That's part of the reason I got in, wanted to coach again. That way I got something so I don't just sit here all the time thinking about everything, just try to get right back into it. So
how's your high school season going?
It's not too bad. We're 4-2 right now, real young team, but kind of on the rise now, won 3 straight, so starting to find a groove. So
nice.
You're out there with the fighting quips of Aliquippa, huh?
Yeah, we're one of the legendary programs around PA like Aliquippa. I coach it at Woodland Hills, where I graduated from at Woodland Hills. So we've, just like Aliquippa, we put a lot of guys in the NFL, a lot of teammates that played in the league, and we won a lot of games. So it's getting things back in the right direction now this year. So
our son last year, he was at Bishop McDevitt, and they beat Aliquippa in the state championship. But there's a lot of talent on that field, man. A whole lot of talent.
There's no doubt, and it's impressive for being they're a single A school enrollment wise, playing 4A football, which
crazy.
You guys know in Pennsylvania is 4 and 5A are where it's at. So
yeah,
it's impressive.
Yeah.
Of course, we're a Maulers show. How did you get hooked up with the Maulers? What was the whole process of joining the Maulers? I know you were at Woodland Hills before, right? And St. Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up with the Pittsburgh Maulers out of all teams?
Long story short, basically using, just keeping my connections from, I was with the Steelers. I worked with Kirby Wilson for 1 year. When I was a scouting intern, he was the running backs coach. His last season there was my first. So kind of had that connection. So when I saw that he got the job with the Maulers, I had reached out just to see if there was anything available. And he pretty much already had a staff already set at that point. But I just volunteered my time. I said, if I can help in any way, remotely, whatever I can do, advanced scouting type stuff, film breakdown, whatever it may be, I'm at your service. So that's kind of where it went for the 22 season, just helping the whole coaching staff. Just, hey, I'd break down film and send them like personnel reports on here's what their offense does, each position, this is the top quarterbacks, receiver, O-lineman, and just working there. And then again, like I think Coach Horton mentioned it before, but I knew Jaron too, just from he came up for a couple of days during camp 1 year whenever he was in Vandy, and I was a quality control guy with the Steelers, and we've spent time there just talking ball and chopping it up there. So that was kind of the first part of the relationship there.
How's it in the booth between you and Horton? You guys were on TV so much because obviously the dad son kind of thing. How is it in the booth in there? Because it seems like at any moment it could be explosive or just the coolest room in the entire stadium.
That's a pretty good description of it. We're both emotional guys, but also at the same time, don't let it go on and on. We kind of get right back into it. Usually it's one or the other. If I'm real worked up, he's the one that's calm, or if he's worked up, I'm the one that's calm. We kind of try to balance each other out a little bit.
That's awesome. What was the biggest thing that you saw? Obviously, you weren't with the team in Birmingham, but you obviously were spending time with the team in terms of film and all that kind of stuff. What was the biggest difference between year one? Obviously, they were 1-9 to being in the championship this year.
Defensively, I think it was continuity. Most of the guys were second-year guys. So they had a real good understanding of the system. It wasn't a lot of moving pieces. Then they knew what's expected from the coaching staff to, what we're going to call, when we're going to call it, why we're going to call it. And then the other part is just, I think, adding pieces. I mean, we added 2 guys this year that, legitimately are 2 of the best players in the league. When you add a Reuben Foster into the defense with other guys that are knowledgeable, and you add a Mark Gilbert in there into that secondary group, those are guys that have a lot of things that you don't have to teach. They just have a lot of God-given ability, and it's just honing the skills within our system and how we play it, and then getting comfortable with how they play. And I think that was a lot to do with it. Was just adding talent with experience, and then just overall as a group, offensively. I mean, I'm a defensive guy, but it just seemed like as the year went on, we added, with the quarterback change, just added a little different mobility aspect. And that's the number one thing in the league that I think helps at any level of football is quarterback mobility. And if you got a guy that can move around, it can hurt a defense, because you can have the perfect call, but all it takes is one little sliver and he's gone. So those are probably the 2 biggest things I think, that helped flip the script pretty quickly.
So Horton was on USFL this week, and he gave you all the credit in the world about Mark Gilbert. How did you find Mark Gilbert? Because he was the best corner in the league. I put him on my USFL 50. I put him number 2. I thought he was the 2nd best player in the league. I only gave Magoo the nod because of the championship. I was just thoroughly impressed. But Gilbert was I thought the best lockdown corner in the league. How did you find him?
Well, I definitely agree with you there. He definitely was. It's just using my relationships. I still have a lot of friends in the scouting world, especially with the Steelers and a few other places in the league. And just, hey, reaching out. Like, we were a week into camp and saw we probably, could add a piece. Maybe we got some guys that we like, but hey, let's add another piece. Let's see if there's any NFL ready guys there. And just reached out and got a couple names, and once I turned the film on, it's like Coach Horton said, you really only had to watch 1 or 2 games. When you go watch a game, he was on the Steelers practice squad in 21 because he was an undrafted free agent there, and then you know how it goes. Lions had some injuries, and they said, we want you active, so they signed him, and sure enough, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later, he got put into a game against the Steelers back in Pittsburgh and played well, and covering everybody, running with them, in phase, did some good things, forced a fumble in overtime that it ended up being a tie, but he did some good things. You only had to watch 1 or 2 plays, but yeah, it was just kind of using, because this football world's it's a small world. It may not people don't realize it, but it is. So it's just using your connections and just seeing what can we do? We need to add another guy to our roster. Let's see if anybody else knows it, is recommending anybody for us to look at.
What was it like adding Reuben Foster, a personality, a legend, a collegiate legend? All of a sudden, you've got a lot of guys that are smaller school guys, and then all of a sudden you got Alabama, in the middle of their dynasty, their best linebacker. What was that like, adding that to that team?
I think it was integral, because you get a guy that is a been there, done that guy, that if it wasn't for injuries or a few things here or there, would have still been in the league. We would have never had a shot for him to play. And you could just see what he adds to a room and to a locker room. Not even just on the field. He's been through so much with Alabama and Saban's defense, so he understands football. He's a guy that's got a high IQ and, can just light up a room. And then the other factor is, I think it brings up everybody else's ability, because a lot of these guys, they grew up watching Reuben play. It was like, hey man, I used to watch your highlight tape all the time, or stuff like that. Because some of the stuff that he did at Alabama, especially, I know the one clip that's always famous, running down on kickoff, hitting Leonard Fournette and doing different things. So he's a known guy. So he just brings an instant presence and respect to the room, from everybody. And then when you can still carry it over on the field, it even takes you to another level.
That's awesome. How did you switch? You played wide receiver in college, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did you switch from offense to defense? What made you go into the coaching world on defense?
Well, I was, I played receiver, like you said, in college and high school. I really only played a half a season of defense in my entire life and really wasn't playing. As a sophomore, Woodland Hills played defense. And then after that, they're like, okay, we had so many guys. It's you play this, you play that. And unless you're the best guy in the field, you didn't play both ways. So that's where my offensive, life started in football. And then after college, stayed at St. Vincent, coached running backs, coached tight ends. And then when I got hired to the Steelers as a scouting intern, when I got done with that, Mike, the Steelers wanted to keep me on, and Mike brought me over to the coaching side, and that was the position open, was defensive quality control. So, you get in there, we'll teach you, you'll learn a little bit as you go, and that's what we did. It was just got in, started working with linebackers for the first 2 years with the inside guys, and then my last year is when I transitioned over to the secondary with Coach Lake, and then the rest has been history.
One of my favorite coaches in college football is Rich Rodriguez, and he was a free safety at West Virginia, walk-on. I think his first year as an assistant coach, he was a defensive coach, and he took over at, I think, Salem College or something like that. I think it was, and at 24 years of age. But one of the things that made him such a great offensive coach is he was a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. So he understood, and that was the thing he was saying. Hey, you can't really expect to coach offense if you don't know what the defense is trying to do to you. So your experience as a receiver gives you an idea of what the defense is trying to do, to stop you, and vice versa. So, I will tell you, this is kind of funny because when you're talking about coaching at St. Vincent's, I coached Division III football at 3 different schools. Mm-hmm. And I'll just ask you this, not to jump on your segment, Webb, but I got to ask you this part.
Oh, you're good.
You're my age. If you don't ask, you'll forget. But, one of the things that always cracks me up is you see these guys on Twitter, and I'm a little bit salty tonight anyway, but they're talking about, that's a D3 player, that's a D3 this or D3 that. And I get offended because I can tell you when I was coaching Division III, what we were doing, hell, the one school I was at up here, we put in the Marshall spread. We had the same terminology. We did everything that Marshall did. We just sometimes didn't line the guy up on the outside of the numbers because we didn't have a quarterback that could get it out there. So there were variations we made. I think the biggest thing about Division III, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, you have to do a little bit of everything, really, and put you in a good mindset where, nobody's too proud to do stuff. But I think you actually get exposed to more football than you would if maybe you were a GA and you were Coach Copy at Alabama. I'm not putting it down. I'd take a GA job at Alabama. But I think you get an opportunity to really learn the game and be involved, and you're asked to do more things on the Division III level. So I'm a little bit sensitive when people rag on D3. Your thoughts?
Totally agree. As far as the player aspect goes, I get kids would ask me all the time. I said, well, if you can play, you can play. It don't matter where you're at. If an NFL or USFL, et cetera, if you're talented enough to play pro football, they'll find you. Scouts will find you, GMs, et cetera. So it don't matter where you play. Yes, it helps if you're playing against other, NFL ready competition as from a valuation perspective, but from the coaching side, definitely, because as a D3 coach, I started out as a restricted earnings coach. I was making $4,000 or $5,000 a year, but I was the running back coach. I had to run meetings. I had to run practice. I had to do everything. But then I also had to recruit. So I was on the road recruiting. You got to set up your own drills for practice. You don't have 4 student assistant equipment managers to do this and that. So it's like you said, you kind of get, and you're doing your own film. You don't have any video guys. Coaches are the video guys. So it's Coach T, a lot of places, have heard it and said it once. When I got to the Steelers, is you got to wear many hats. And that's one of the places. And that's how I learned doing that. It was at the D3 level is, hey, nobody's too proud to do or too big. Don't matter if you're the OC or the running back coach or a student assistant. It's all hands on deck and all hands in the pile.
Well, you'll get a kick out of this. One of my jobs was we had these big poster boards, and you drew it up where you had the hash. And literally, this before computer and cutting tape and everything. We're popping in a VCR. You young guys know what a VCR is? A VCR tape. You're watching the tape go through, and I'd chart all the plays for the game. And then I'd sit down in my office and write out the different plays and formation on the hash to literally that's how we would look for tendencies. And then I'd turn it into the defense coordinator, and literally everything was on the poster board. And we would do that on Sunday nights, and then we'd start to build our game plan Sunday night going into Monday. And now I think about all these computers and all the different stuff that they can do to just pull film down. And I'm like, man, we've come a long way.
Long ways, right.
So you've spent some time with the Birmingham Iron as well in the AAF. What's the biggest difference between the USFL and the AAF?
Honestly, it's really the structure. More from the top, just in my opinion, because I went straight from the NFL to the AAF, and that was my first job after I left the Steelers. And from a football perspective, day to day, everything was pretty NFL-like. Office-wise, we kind of had what we had, smaller staffs, obviously, and stuff like that, but it was the stability that kind of the USFL has with Fox. Like that's been a big difference, because really the whole reason I think the AAF failed was because it was bankrupt, and it was because you only had one person really trying behind it, and that's not going to work. With Fox being behind it and having that strong foundation, I think is really what's been the catalyst and the biggest difference.
So you've coached in the NFL, USFL, AAF, high school, college.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick one, where are you picking? Like
pro football,
like USFL or NFL? Because I know the NFL is nice, obviously, but the other coaches have said they like coaching these guys that are kind of hungry, and they like coaching them up. So I was just wondering where you'd stand.
I agree. I'm in that same realm. I mean, if an NFL job ever comes back open to me or whatever, then yeah, I'd definitely be all for it, because it's back to the NFL, and I've lived my dream already. That's the one thing where I'm kind of at is, if you ask me when I got into the coaching profession, all I thought I was ever going to do was coach high school football, and that was it. But getting the chance to start in college, that sped everything up. But and they say, where would you want to coach if you had to pick? I want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I got a chance to live that for 5 years, and if it ever comes back around, then yeah, great. But this I love what the USFL brings, because, like you said, it's guys that are hungry. It's still pro football. It's guys that are professionals. They're still professionals. They know what it takes to work and what you need to do day in and day out to get to the next level. And it's also you don't have to recruit. That's the other reason. I mean, if I got to go back to college or something for whatever reason, then sure. But I couldn't, just recruiting, especially D3 recruiting. Alex, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's a whole different ball game than any other recruiting, and I did it again for a year this past fall before I came back to the Maulers, and it was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Just too much work for something that you're not in control of, So yeah, definitely, USFL or NFL, but no more college football for me if I have a choice.
So obviously, going back to Birmingham Iron, Did you know that you were on the same staff as the general manager of the only coach in the Maulers history back in the day?
Joe Pendry.
Pendry. All right.
Absolutely. He was a good guy. Yeah, his office was right across the hall, and it was just one of those. It's again, like you say, football world is a small world that we're talking 5-6 years later, and it all kind of comes full circle. So yeah, he was a good guy, and it's fun to work with and fun to listen to him tell stories about the old days, whether it was with Saban in Alabama or the original USFL.
Well, I don't know if you watched the show last week, but when we were prepping for the show, I told Webb I put it together that the guy who hired me for my first job, his position coach at West Virginia was Joe Pendry. How cool is that?
Awesome.
Small world.
Small world.
Hey, speaking of small world, though, you did actually for the Birmingham Iron, 2 names I wanted to throw out there just to get your opinion. Rick Mentor as a Cincinnati Bearcat here, love Coach Mentor, and Steve Logan, another great offensive mind at ECU. What were those guys like to work with? I mean, they're 2 really good college football coaches.
Absolutely. Yeah, Coach Logan was a good guy. Didn't get as much interaction with him like on a X's and O's basis, just being on the defensive side of the ball, and just the way our schedule worked, because leading into Coach Minner and Coach Lewis, we were grinders on that side of the ball. I mean, Coach was awesome to work with. Learned a lot from him. Another 3-4 kind of guy too. And Tim Lewis was our head coach, Steeler DC. Rick Minner gave Mike, Mike Tomlin was on his staff too. So we had that connection. So, and again, small world, things kind of come together. But now Coach Minner was a good guy, and I learned a lot from him, and gave me a different perspective on how to look at some things, and whether between film study and just physically coaching guys too. So it was a very pleasant experience for sure.
That's right. That's awesome. All right, Coach, you ready to drop the hammer?
Let's do it.
All right, let's drop the hammer. Non-football questions. You ready, Coach?
All right, let's do it.
All right, we're making a movie about your life. Who's starring as Steve? Who are you? Who's the actor?
He really isn't an actor much, but he had one movie. It was about his life. I'd have to say probably like Eminem, because everybody growing up used to say I look like Eminem, and everybody wanted to have the bleach blonde hair and all that. So I'd say Eminem.
All right. Music. If you got to control the music in the locker room or on the practice field, what are you playing?
Probably I'm a pretty standard guy. Pretty much I'm a rap hip hop guy, but mainly not old school. These kids nowadays would say it's old school, but Tupac. Let's start with Tupac for sure. That's one of my main guys. That's one of my top 5 all time. Tupac, Rick Ross, Meek Mill, a little bit more new school, some NBA Youngboy, some Young Dolph, some of these guys. Pretty much I'm in that rap world for the most part. But I think even Matt mentioned it the other day. I think it was Matt when he was on here, said something, because I hated country growing up, and I still really hate country, but some people have played a lot of Morgan Wallen around me, and some of that ain't bad, so I might throw that on there every once in a while too. But
I don't like country either, but now that I know Blewett listens to country music, I've started like tuning to country stations on the stuff,
There you go. Yeah, when you're driving around, I'll change it up a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I don't know, because I've done a lot of things, besides that. I've worked even now, like in the off season, I still do some odd jobs just on the side, just to make extra money. I would probably be a funeral director though, because my dad's a funeral director.
Okay.
So like when I've needed to work on the side and do extra money, that's some of the things I've done. I've worked in that business a little bit too. So I'd probably say I would have went back to mortuary school and been a funeral director.
All right. Yeah. Alex, you ready for your trivia? This is actually actually, before we go to that, since you are a Pittsburgh guy, you're the only Pittsburgh guy that's been on here, and you like hip hop. Matt or Wiz, who are you taking for Pittsburgh?
It's close, but probably Mac. I like Wiz. I like a lot of Wiz's old stuff, like his mixtape stuff was a lot better than the mainstream stuff. So Mac was more consistent, I think, just overall, like from every album that he put out, always had something that I liked. And Wiz, I liked a lot of his old stuff, but some of the new stuff, not as much. So
that's crazy. That's crazy because every coach has said Mac Miller, while every player says Wiz. Yep. I think only one said. I think Trey Walker. Maybe it was Trey Walker. I don't remember. One player said Mac Miller, but everyone else says Wiz on the players. So the coaches got a different vibe, I guess.
It's just I don't know if it's age, maybe. I don't know. Even though Mac and them are young too, maybe I don't know. Something different.
All right, go ahead, Alex. Trivia time.
Yeah, these are going to be tough because, like I said, I was told I had to really step up the game with that. You were going to be, if anybody was going to get them, it'd be you. So, hopefully I didn't overshoot myself here. But first question: what year did the Pittsburgh Civic Arena open?
Oh, 19. Well, the Penguins are in 1967 was the first year, but it opened before that. I should know this because I used to work at the Civic Arena as a bar back in college. I want to say it's in the 1950s, if I remember right. Maybe 1955. somewhere
I'll
in there.
give you partial. They broke ground in 58 and it opened in
63, 61.
one.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you what, that's partial credit to come at close because, like I said, when I came up with that one, I'm like, I almost feel bad I'm doing this guy. And he, from all what I've heard, he's a great guy too. So that was good.
Yeah, it was open. It was made for the symphony. It wasn't even made for hockey or anything else. It was for music. That's why it opened up, before they realized it cost too much money to do that.
Yeah, good. Very good point. Look at that. I like it. Here's the next question for you. Again, maybe a tough one. A lot of people don't remember Pittsburgh used to have a pro basketball team. They were in the American Basketball Association. What was their nickname?
Oh, I have a shirt too. Pittsburgh Condors.
Boom.
Yep.
You got it. That's great. All right, and here's one that's not sports related. I have two more to go. In 1893, this carnival ride was invented and built in Pittsburgh. What was it?
Ferris wheel.
Damn. You got it. Yeah, the guy who did it was George Washington Gale Ferris invented it.
Okay.
So you've got partial number one. You aced questions 2 and question 3, and this is going to be probably the biggest question of the night. Who is second all time in field goals made at the University of Pittsburgh?
Second, it's Kessman and Blewett, I believe. I think Kessman is first, and I think Blewett second. Correct?
You won. Congratulations, and thank you for the Chris Blewett call out for the bonus question. That's legendary right there, Webb. That man just got 3 credit hours somewhere. That's awesome. Well done. He was good.
Back to football. What's your take on the National Spring Football League? The whole merger thing. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? I know we're all left in the dark, so we really don't know where it's going, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's like you said, we're all kind of in the dark right now. We got, we don't really know what's going on, but ultimately I think it's a good thing. If you would have asked me last year when I got in, or 2 years ago with the XFL and USFL being here, I would have told you, yeah, they're going to merge within 5 years. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it would happen this fast. To me, I think it's a good thing for football, for a couple of reasons. One, it helps the talent pool. Now you're all pulling from the same group. Everybody's, pulling from the same guys. Second, it gives the NFL more reason to back this and invest in this. Because ultimately, I think that's what this could be. If this is done the right way and it's handled in the right direction, this could be NFL Europe stateside now. From the not late 90s, early 2000s, before it went under, to where, hopefully, this comes down to the NFL. But what would even help even more is if we do get, in conjunction with the NFL and they bring you. Each team has a team that they're connected with that, hey, you get a couple of our practice squad guys and, it'll help those guys develop, because ultimately that's the hardest thing to do right now in football is to develop guys, because I don't care what level of football it is, it's not the same. The way rules have changed in pro football, guys can say, we're going to draft and develop somebody, but it's hard to develop somebody when you don't go, you're not going live and you're not going to do this, and you don't need to do that. It doesn't need to be like it used to be where you're hitting every day. I'm not saying that, but in certain positions, you need live reps to develop. And a lot of guys on practice squads, you don't get those live reps. You're running cards all day. You're running, the other team's, techniques and looks and doing things. So you don't get a chance to truly develop, your skill set. We've had a few guys, like one of the best examples I had was when, I was with Pittsburgh. We had a guy signed in the middle of the year in 2016, Mike Hilton. The very next year was a starter for us, and you see what he's done. He, got a nice contract with the Bengals and been one of the best nickel corners in the league. So long answer. I definitely think it's a good thing in the long run, as long as it's handled and presented in the right way.
All right, Alex, you got anything for Coach? I know I asked a ton of questions. So
No, that's good. I have to laugh though when he said running cards. That used to be one of my jobs too, running the scout team, and I'll never forget. I'll never do it again. But they had a safety. We were going against the one defense, and that safety was just flying up. We were running toss, and I mean, we're talking, early '90s I formation, tight end flanker, old school stuff. We're just running some toss. Safety's flying up, making a tackle, and everybody carrying on. So near the end of practice, I told the running back, I said, see, flanker's going to stalk, take off. I'm going to toss it and you throw it. And, man, we burned them big. And I don't think I've ever been dressed down on the field worse than that by our defense coordinator. He let me have it. He said, they don't run that. He was like just all up in me. But hell, it was funny to see the scout team score on those guys. But when you said running cards, I had a flashback to probably not a good way to advance your career doing it that way.
Oh, no. It's I've had to run cards with the Steelers, did it in Birmingham, did it a little bit even still this year. Smallwood still kind of do whatever we can. And it's a pain. It really is. But it also, again, it helps you being able to know what they're trying to get. What we used to do a lot with the Steelers when I was there with me and the quality control guy, hey, let's forget drawing cards. Especially when we're playing a similar defense. Show me what you want. All right, this is what we call it. And we just call it out. Hey, I want a 4-man rush out of a 3-4 spacing, cover 3. So, hey, just all right, that's tight Sam me 33, whatever. That way our guys can go and play it, and it's not looking at the card because that was the most frustrating thing. You can sit up here and hold it up, and guys are looking at it, and then they go and do whatever. Like, that's not on the card. Dude, it's on the card. It's not that hard.
Right.
But it is one of the hardest things in football is to run a play off a card. So
I know you're holding it up like this, and meanwhile they're yelling at you like, "Hurry up, get it in, get it going, and get out of the huddle." And you're trying to tell everybody what to do, and it's not a lot of fun there. But the other thing that used to crack me up about they'd scripted. So I'd run the scout and the defense would script it against the plays, and we'd line up different formations, make sure the defense get a line and all that. What used to really tick me off is every now and then would pop one on them, and it'd say, hold it, blow the whistle, and everybody screaming all ticked off, and line up again, right? Run it again. The defense knows it's coming, and they'd stuff it, and everybody go nuts. And it's like, well, you should stuff it. It's coming.
Exactly.
Anyway.
It's one of the fun, frustrating things about coaching.
Well, to get your opinion on something about seeing a rumor flying around, I hope it's not true. But you touched on it very early in the interview about developing players and developing continuity. No, you're talking about the jump from 1-9 to this year and how much we improved. And it struck me that I think people don't have any idea what it's like to put a football team together from scratch, which is really what we did in year one. One of the rumors that I'm hearing flying around with the new spring football league, which I'm like you, if it promotes spring football, gives guys opportunities, coaches opportunities, support staff opportunity, I'm for it, period. But the idea of a dispersal draft and going through and redrafting these teams, I think would be a colossal mistake because, the Maulers are building their identity. We've had a chance to play together. The improvement from year 1 to year 2 was obvious. I think I know where you stand on this, but I mean, just sort of, could you share your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree. That would be – I think it would just create bad football, which is
Me too.
If you don't – the biggest thing that's going to make this league go, like I know I see all the arguments and comments about hub this, hub that. The reason ratings are going to be good or bad is if it's good football or if it's bad football.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you create good football anymore is having continuity and having guys that are comfortable in a system, they're in the right system, and then that are just constantly building. And no, I don't think I would be firmly against that if it was up to me. I don't see that benefiting anybody, because like I said, whether you're in a hub in the city, whatever, the biggest thing is putting a good product on tape. That's what's going to sell. Nobody's going to watch bad football. There was some bad football at times. Nobody's going to watch that. They always say that why don't people watch spring or preseason football half the time? Is because a lot of the times it's bad football because guys aren't ready to play or they only get so many reps and it's sloppy at times. People are going to watch good football. It don't matter what it is, college, high school, NFL, USFL, whatever. If it's good football and it's a good product, people will watch it.
Agreed. And then this is more like, I guess, just to get a sense of your sort of coaching philosophy in general. And I'm going to anticipate an answer, but I'm going to throw it out there to you. One of the things that sort of struck me, and I may have been wrong, is when Jaron was on Coach Horton was on our show on USFLA doing the top 50, and he said you guys didn't run a lot of man and whatnot. And that's fine. How difficult are your defensive fronts, your coverages in terms of like doing a lot of things? Or do you are you a coach that believes in, what Miami used to go 4-3 and line up in that Tampa 2 and just play that all game. Right. And so what's sort of your philosophy there on that? I mean, you like to out scheme people or just keep it simple and have guys fly the ball?
I'm a firm believer in doing what your guys do best. If you're a 3-4 guy, but you don't have 3-4 personnel, or you're a fire zone guy, but you don't have guys that can play fire zone coverage and they can't communicate and do all the adjustments that are required with playing a lot of that fire zone type pressure, then don't do it. You're only making yourself look bad. I'm a firm believer in being flexible and doing what our guys do best. And like this year, like Coach said, we did best because we had a bunch of guys that were comfortable in zone coverages and spot drop defenses that just flew around to the football, and that's what we were best at. So that's what we were going to do. There times that we could have probably done a little bit more. Yeah, sure, but with the way things are set up too, like you only have so much practice time and so much meeting time, and so let's get a menu of what our guys do well, and let's go to work and let them play fast and confident, because ultimately that's when guys are going to make the most plays, is when they're confident and they're playing fast. They're not hesitating. So
no question. Hesitation kills.
It
does. The defense was fun. Well, I'll end with sort of a question and a comment. I enjoyed watching you guys play all year. I mean, it was a phenomenal defense. The defensive back play was outstanding. So congratulations to you and your guys. You put together such a wonderful season for Mauler fans like us. We enjoyed, the entire season. And, I know I've said it on other shows. I really feel like we're every bit as good as Birmingham. We're that close. When they got us in the championship game, it was their night. I mean, like I said, Magoo could have thrown it between his legs, behind his back, and over his head, and he was going to hit somebody. It was one of those nights, and you just tip your cap. But, really appreciate everything that you guys did. And hopefully we'll see the majority of those guys back working with you again this spring. And whether it's the National Football, NSFL or USFL or the Hey You or whatever they call it, hopefully the Maulers will be there and we'll be there pulling for you guys. But, I know what the question was now. That's Lou Holtz. You think until you think of something, talk until you think of something to say. One thing I've noticed is with defensive back playing, I coached defensive backs years and years ago, and we didn't see as many pass interference penalties. And I think now I finally figured it out. It's because most teams are throwing the ball 20, 25 times a game. I know we played UAB the first year they were Division III, and they threw it 40, 45 times, and it felt like they're still throwing it. But I see some of these pass interference calls, and so many of them, and this is more of a philosophy thing. I see these guys, they don't have to do it when, they're in good position. They got the strip here. Why does everybody feel like they need to take that off arm and wrap the guy and pull him even when you're in good position? I mean, is that something that you have to fight against our guys to keep them from doing that? Is it just a comfort, like a tendency? Because I don't remember my guys doing that a lot. Maybe that's why we got burned a lot. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, first, I definitely appreciate you guys and everything that you guys have done in the comments. And like you say, I definitely agree too. We're this close, and this was my most, and just being honest, this is my most enjoyable year of football coaching that I've had since I've been with the Steelers. Since I left the NFL, this has been life-changing for me. This has been what has really helped me. Not that I fell out of love with it, but this really helped me realize, hey, this is why I do what I do. But just going to the technique thing, to me, it's a lack of comfort and trust in the guy's technique sometimes, because a lot of guys get in position and they don't trust either their feet, or they don't trust their eyes or their speed, and then they panic, and that's just kind of a crutch for them, just to let me feel him, make sure he's there, when really good DB play is, it's not just hands, or not just using your hands, it's not just using your feet, it's not just using your eyes, it's putting them all together. It's eyes, hands, and feet all working together at the same time. So I think that's a lot of the reason why guys do that, is that they panic, just getting not comfortable and trusting themselves and their abilities and just panic and seeking that comfort of just getting a feel for how much room I got. Is he close to me? Where is he? That's just my thought on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. That was all I had, Webb.
That's all you got? Questions. All right, I'm out of questions. Coach, we've reached the end zone. This is your time to shine, or your whatever you want to promote. Message to the Maulers Nation, whatever. I don't even know. Are we calling it Maulers Nation? I don't even know yet. We haven't really come up with a nickname for it, but a message to your family, anything. The floor is yours.
No, just for everybody that supported the league and the Maulers specifically, we appreciate it. It was great seeing the atmosphere in the championship game, and even, the people in Canton, even, we weren't there. Even every one of our games, there was at least a decent crowd. It wasn't like there was 200 people in the stands. There was still a decent crowd. It was a good atmosphere for football, and we definitely appreciate that. And looking forward to hopefully having the chance to doing it again, in front of the fans in Pittsburgh or back in Canton. Hopefully, if you want my opinion, hopefully that's where it's at. Getting into my family perspective, definitely a shout out to my wife, because she held it down when I was living in Canton for 4 months and with 2 kids under 5 years old. And she was definitely the rock star of the family, and definitely appreciate everything she did. And then, all the help I got from my parents helping with the kids and stuff too, and family members. But no, it was enjoyable. I'm looking forward to whatever this next rendition of Maulers football looks like, NSFL, USFL, whatever it is. Just waiting anxiously to figure out what we're going to be doing here, and looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Coach, for joining us.
Thanks, Coach. You
got a fan for life, man. That DB room, we talk about it off air a lot. I love that DB room. When I was up there in Canton, I just like all the guys. They're good, and it just felt like a family. Even though I'm not there it just felt like they were just open and all that kind of stuff. And I just love your DB room. So
I appreciate it. It definitely was a good group, and it is a family. The whole, from Coach Horton, Coach Ray, all the way down. It's, he was in it, I was in it. It does have that Steeler vibe. I know Sue mentioned it before too.
Yeah.
It is. It's a family, and it's about guys trusting each other. Like, hey, we're here to I'm just trying to get the best out of you, so trust what we're saying and believe in what we're doing, and we're going to be successful. And we were, we fell one step short. Now we just got to continue learn from it and, go take that next step this year.
Hey, Webb, if they invite me to camp, I'm going with the Kickers.
There you go. You got an interesting group to go with then.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Dick's and get some of those soccer shoes. I find myself gravitating toward those soccer shoes in Dick's. I never bought a pair. Maybe I should get a pair and start kicking a little bit.
There you go.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, the defense is more fun. The defense was from Boogie all the way to the Tornado and Tarp and the coaches. The defense was great.
Yeah.
Nothing against the offense, but I'll run with the defense.
No doubt. We had like you said, we had a good group. We knew how to have fun, but at the same time, you knew when it was time to go to work. That was the one thing that was one main thing I've taken from Coach T and all those guys that I work with the Steelers is, there's a time and a place for everything. This is a business, but at the same time, it's a family, and we're here to help each other and get better. But we can have fun at the same time. We didn't have a lot of signage. There's not a lot of signage on the south side with the Steelers. There's really only one thing, and it just says take the field. And that's one thing with the Maulers that we did a good job of. We could be cutting up and having fun, but when it's time to walk out those doors and get on the field, it's all business, for those 2 hours, whatever it is. Let's get our work in and let's get done, and then we can go back to enjoying ourselves after that. Let's putting the time and effort in.
There you go. Well, thank you again, Coach. I look forward to watching Mauler football this spring.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
All right, this has been Hammer Time, episode 50 with Coach Steve Meyer.
Take care.